Hey ToB fans, this is a Tower of Babble special where me and Dan are reviewing Thor 2 as well as having a greater discussion on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Make sure to find us on iTunes and Stitcher and give us a rating over there, as well as on Twitter at TowerBabblecast and on our site www.towerofbabblepodcast.com where you'll find my written review for Thor 2. So enjoy. Let's talk. Okay, so Thor: The Dark World. What do you think, Dan? Did you like it?
It was solid. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was. I mean, I didn't blow my mind in any way, but I don't know. I can't. I don't even remember it. Actually, it's very forgettable now that I think about it.
That's I saw it is.
I saw it. It was a movie. I watched it. I know those things for a fact, and I know Thor was in it, and that's
all that really matters. Well, you also know Loki was in it. That was. Loki
was in it.
Okay,
I don't know. The whole Dark Elf thing wasn't really explained.
No, not really.
Depth. Doesn't really have to be. It's just some crazy galactic enemy.
That's the thing. I feel like I came out of this movie, and I normally think I come out of a movie and that was stupid, and it was sure it was fun, but I was I didn't really like it because it was just too dumb or whatever. But this movie, I come out, I'm yeah, that was a lot of fun. And yeah, they didn't explain the villains at all, but I don't really mind because everything else was so awesome.
See, the thing that always gives me pause is it's you and I can't have an actual conversation because we can't come to it as a version, we already know a little bit. Obviously neither one of us really knows a lot about the Dark Elves and Malekith and all that stuff, but we already knew that it wasn't established. In our minds, it was already established.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So I have a hard time seeing it from a general audience point of view.
But we don't have to see it from a general audience point of view. We're looking at it as fans from the fandom point of view, which is fine. I think we established that at the very beginning of when we of this podcast all the time. If you listening to this whole podcast, you got to this point, and you want us to talk about Thor from the general audience point of view, you're listening to the wrong podcast.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I always try to look at it that way. Maybe I shouldn't, but
no, look at it.
With that, then what's the point, right?
No. You should look at anything you look at with if you're looking to review it or whatever with with shades of the experiences you've had and what you know and your knowledge. You know what I mean? And you can at the same time express how that knowledge affects the way you saw it. But you know what I mean?
I guess this has to do you and I have had this actual argument before. How I don't want to listen to a review or read a review before I go to see a movie. I like it to go in blind, and this is the logical conclusion of that mentality is I try to see it as somebody who has no idea what's going on.
Sure,
but it's not always possible, especially with this movie.
And I get that. I know what you're saying. I think you can definitely mention that as a part of how you interpreted the movie. I think that's a part of it.
It's not about. I'm just saying this. Me as a person, this is this is something that I do and I can't help but do it. You know what I mean?
My gripe with the Flashpoint animated movie was that if you didn't read the Flashpoint series, I don't think you'd have any fucking idea what was happening in that movie. And I think that's a fair comment to make. I think the only way to know that is by having read that, and you could say, I think it's not the only way. If you hadn't read it, you'd watch the movie, you'd be I didn't know what was going on. But having read it, you can have that. You can look at it and say, I don't think it explained the story and what made the story good. And because you've read the comic book version, and coming in with that knowledge, you can make commentary based on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Thor. It was a Thor. It was definitely a Thor movie. It felt like a Thor comic the entire time. It was an adventure. It was Thor. Not only he wasn't as arrogant as in the last movie, but it was just him going on an adventure essentially. But
I mean, I think you don't want him to be as arrogant because the whole point of the first movie was that he used to need to learn that lesson, right?
It also I don't know. It doesn't. It seems like it seems like a lot of filler. Is what it felt like. And that's part of the problem of having a movie as big as Avengers and then downgrading to Iron Man 3 and Thor 2. It's these obviously they come afterwards and it's okay, well, what now? And it's never going to be as big as Avengers because Avengers 2 is coming. Sure. They have to build up to it.
You know what movie that doesn't seem like it'll have that problem?
What's that?
Cap 2. Cap 2 looks off the chain.
Yeah, you saw that preview at the beginning.
Oh man, so good, right?
It looks sick. It does.
I think for me, when I go into a comic book movie, is things that bring me joy and make me happy when I'm watching is if at one point during the movie I can imagine what's happening on screen playing out as panels on a comic book page.
Yeah.
And seeing it and interpreting that as saying they took a comic book page and they just put it on the screen and it works. And I can just imagine word bubbles and having the same experience. You know what I mean?
Out of every movie like we've seen thus far, Avengers has been the best for that. Avengers was not a direct translation. It wasn't only that, but it had a couple like key like set piece moments that were like you could see like Loki looking up and smiling like that, or you could see Thor in a pasture calling for his hammer. You know,
yeah.
They had a couple key moments that were like that.
I think in Thor, there's a couple of those moments, or Thor 2, excuse me. We're just gonna get into. We're gonna talk about spoilers because I mean this movie's been out for 2 weeks now. I think it's fair.
I'm pretty sure like we don't even have to say spoilers anymore.
No,
just
I think it's always fair to say spoilers.
Like,
I even said
watch
spoilers
the movie
in my
if you want to. Whatever. Anyways,
that Cap 2 or the Cap cameo, great, right?
Yeah, it was awesome.
And that was one of those scenes that I imagine playing out on a panel and thinking that would be hilarious.
It was cool for sure.
I don't read a lot of Thor comic books, but
okay, well, I mean, spoilers. It was Loki just pretending to be Cap, just to get a rise out of Thor, right?
Yeah, but hilarious, really good. No, really well done.
It was cool. The only reason I dislike is because like we talked about actually, I think after the podcast last time we did it was that counts as one of Chris Evans'
movies
spots in a movie. So like,
was that after? It was after because I wanted to talk about it in this. So.
Okay, well, let's talk about it right now.
So what you're saying is that because he had this cameo, it counts as one of his 6 films that he signed on his original contract with Cap 1. Chris Evans has said that he wants to only do 6 movies. If that's true, that's already Cap 1, which is 1 movie. Avengers, that's 2. Cap 2, that's 3.
Thor 2.
Thor 2, that's 4. That leaves Avengers 3 and what? Cap 3? That's it.
Potentially.
Yeah. And we were saying is that if you're going to only do 3 movies
you
with
need
Chris
Avengers
Evans,
2 and 3. So what we were talking about the other time is that maybe they forego doing a third Captain America because you want him there for Avengers 2 and Avengers 3.
Yeah.
Which means he has no cameos between then, and that's like a long time for him to sit on that contract. I don't know.
It's weird. Yeah, you have no Captain America for that whole long time. I mean, realistically, you could probably arrange to have rejigger the contract some way, you know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure they'll renew it, and I'm sure he'll agree to the millions of dollars they throw his way.
Because he said he doesn't want to come back for more than 6. I mean,
but that's part of the negotiation. It's easy for him to say that, and then when they say, well, how does $2 million smell? He's going to be like, oh, that smells good. And
if it was in Canadian money, he's like, oh, that smells like maple leafs.
and it's honest. It's probably going to be more than $2 million. Like it's going to be more than what I just said. Like,
well, he's the lowest paid one right now. He's the lowest paid,
and
Avenger.
That's fine. And that's why he's making it hard for them. And like, if they really need him to be there, they'll make sure he's there. And between Disney, Marvel, all that crap, they have the money.
And those cameos make those movies so much fun. That's what they do. The fact that they're connected makes it so much better.
What I'm more curious about is whether like I want to know about Samuel L. Jackson's contract because he appeared in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. I want to know like what how does that count? Like, you know what I mean? Because
as far as I know, I don't think it counts.
I believe when it was like a year or whatever ago, however long ago that he was signed on for like 15 movies, but that included the cameos in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, in 1.
Thor, like whatever, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. That is interesting. It's hard to we don't preview that information.
Yeah, we don't get that.
We do sometimes get Tyler Babble exclusives. This is not one time.
We got one. We got one. That's all that matters, right?
Other than that, like we'll get back to Thor in a second, but I would love to see the Death of Cap storyline if he really is serious about not doing more movies and doing the Death of Cap storyline, maybe tie it in with a Civil War movie, right? If you're gonna do that,
I mean we're talking Phase 3 at this point, right?
Yeah.
I agree. Like I would love to see that, especially like I feel like that's probably the best way for them to end the character, because then it's not some random new person taking over as Steve Rogers.
It's Bucky.
It's Bucky taking over as Captain America, which is what happens in the comics, and like there are plenty of stories that come out of that.
Yeah,
that's a whole era of comic books that is Bucky as Cap instead of Steve Rogers, and then he comes back, blah blah blah.
And of
blah,
course,
blah.
Steve Rogers comes back because it's comic books.
Comic
Everyone
books.
comes back.
But also, like, it doesn't have to be a direct translation from the comics, because the death of Captain America comes right after Civil War. Civil War at this point is going to be hard to do, but once they introduce all these new characters and we get to Phase 3, maybe it's rich enough for that to be possible. But the biggest part of, like, the biggest contention in Civil War is between Iron Man and Captain America, so you would want Steve Rogers for that, which is why, like we were saying last week, but off air, that we would want him to not do Cap 3 and do Avengers 3, because you would assume Avengers 3 would be Civil War, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you do Avengers, okay, you'd say you do Cap 3, you figure it out to get him in.
I'm fucking out of breath from that sentence. That was a long run-on sentence.
That's okay. Well, you put periods in there, I'm sure. If you're typing it,
No, it was all commas. All commas, man.
Was there a semicolon in there?
I think I might have thrown a question mark, but then I didn't give you a chance to answer, and I just kept going.
Keep going. Yeah, I mean, I think the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe is already set up, I think Civil War is a foregone conclusion. I think that'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially with the introduction of of Daredevil and all those shows that are going to bring in even more characters, right?
Because so Daredevil is 2015, and they're doing one. I think I don't know if it's every year or like 2 a year or whatever, but like suppose by when does Phase 3 kick in? Right?
So you do two. Phase 3 starts as soon as Avengers 2 comes out. So 2016.
Okay. So then you would have, it would kind of line up to have Daredevil and all those Defenders on the Netflix series.
And who knows what other movies you're introducing.
And like they're going to be a minor part of Avengers 3, but they can even if they have cameos, even if it's all connected like that, like that's one of the crazy, like one of the most like just one of my favorite parts of comic books is when things come together like that, when like people who are doing, like, that their comic book is doing some other thing, but that they all come together for this one like crossover.
The great thing is that, and we talked about this last week, is that there's a possibility that they could make deals with those other studios and have those Spider-Man and X-Men in that movie if they wanted. It might not make sense with all these things happening. Like, where have the X-Men been this whole time? Spider-Man makes more sense because he does his own little thing in Manhattan and whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But
Spider-Man is much more closely related to like Daredevil and all those like Hell's Kitchen
and
heroes
also
for hire.
That his whole demasking is a very big part of Civil War.
The one again, I don't know why we did all this off mic last week,
because you guys hadn't seen Thor 2 yet.
Maybe. But like the Fantastic Four is a huge part, or they are a huge part rather, of Civil War, just because two of them are on one side, two are on the other, and there's a lot of internal conflict there. Mm-hmm. Fantastic Four, as far as I know, they're still a Fox property, right?
Yeah, they won't come back now, at least not for a while, because Fox is in production on a.
But see, here's the thing,
film.
At this point right now, with X-Men the way it is and Days of Future Past coming out, X-Men is their huge property.
Yeah,
they could probably just let go of Fantastic Four, right?
They could, but they won't,
because you don't need X-Men for Civil War.
No, you don't.
You really don't.
You only need Wolverine.
You don't
even the only one that matters.
You don't really need Wolverine either. Like he's in there. He's helping clean up, but he's not a huge. He's a big part of Secret Invasion, but he's not a big part of Civil War.
Yeah, you don't really need him. I get what you're saying, but like
I mean, I know like obviously there are people that are writing these movies that are smarter than you or I that can do it without the Fantastic Four, and they're doing like obviously they have Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and they're like maybe they are brother and sister, maybe they're not. I don't even know what's going on with that, but like. These are things they have to consider, but I don't know. Civil War, I would love to see the Fantastic Four as a part of the larger Marvel universe, more so than the X-Men. I think X-Men is better as a standalone. I think X-Men can hold its own on,
I think X-Men has been kind of its own thing for a long time, in comics books for a long time as well. Like they don't really hang out very much with the Avengers. I mean, they talk about them. You sometimes see them. It's just not a. And the X-Men versus Avengers storyline was kind of a letdown.
There's always a little bit of conflict between them too, because I don't know, like Wolverine, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, no more. They're like they get in with the Avengers, but the rest of them, like Cyclops, really doesn't. He
kind of hates them, actually.
Yeah, they kind of fight a lot. They disagree about a lot of things. Well, part of that is because Cyclops has to be the leader of the X-Men, so he has to, take care of the mutants first, and that kind of comes into conflict. And I guess that's what Avengers vs. X-Men was all about, right?
Well, it's more than that, but yeah, it's worth reading for sure, but it's no Civil War. There hasn't been an event at Marvel since Civil War that's been even close.
Siege was the closest one.
Siege was like right after to play.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, when Civil War, then Secret Invasion.
But it was a
then
minor.
Siege.
Secret Invasion, I thought happened before Civil War. No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Pretty sure it came right afterwards.
Yeah,
because there was all the Secret Avengers and the Mighty Avengers and stuff.
Okay.
Like they all broke up,
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. Well, keep talking. I'm gonna go get myself another drink.
Okay. Yeah. As for Thor 2, I've had. I wrote a review of it. I mentioned this on last week's podcast, but go read it. It really breaks down my thoughts very, very briefly. We probably won't get into this. Like, we're not movie reviewers. We don't try to be. We do pretend to be sometimes, but other times we're not. And I wrote one up. I'm actually kind of proud of it. It's maybe not my best piece of writing, but it's definitely worth a read. So visit that on the site for sure. Other than that, Dan's drinking. I ran out of my drink, so I'm not going to go get another one because I am on antibiotics.
Pussy.
What?
I just said pussy because you said night. I was just joking.
What was I going to say? I was just rambling for a little bit there.
We didn't really talk about Thor that much.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. Let's get back to Thor 2.
Okay.
Like I said, I liked it. I think Loki was the best part of the movie, to be honest. He really stole the scene, stole everything. Every time he was on screen, he was the most interesting character there. Thor being not very interesting of a character in general.
Never really has been. Yeah.
No, but Loki is so much more interesting just character wise. Oh, what did you think of the Loki stuff?
Loki, Tom Hiddleston is always awesome as Loki.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I think he did steal this show. What'd you think of the after credits stuff?
So are you talking about right before? Okay, so the scene right before the credits is Odin. Turns out was Loki the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Makes you wonder, make questions
where's
Odin?
It's leading up to either Thor 3 or whatever, right?
Yeah, probably Thor 3. Question is, where is Odin? What did Loki do with Odin? Is he dead? Is he captured, imprisoned somewhere? Who knew that he had the power to do that?
Yeah.
Or how that even works. So that's
you've always known that he's had magic, so he can different glamours and stuff.
I really like that line in Thor 2 with the whole. What did he say? You got mother's looks. I got her. What does he say? You got her looks. I got her tricks. Or I think Thor's saying
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought that was kind of cool because they show Frigga. Have the same abilities, which is really cool, and also have the little dagger like Loki does. Other than that, I mean, I guess the Dark Elves are kind of wasted. They look almost like they're almost like aliens. Like they have spaceships and stuff, which is kind of. I thought it was the cool combination of fantasy and sci-fi. It was really the way they did it. It was there's parts that were Portal, which is kind of cool, and then there was parts that are Lord of the Rings that are kind of cool.
Also, Heimdall had a larger role, and that was awesome.
Oh man, that scene where
Heimdall was sick.
That one, that one scene, we're thinking about the same one, right? Where he hears the ship and runs out and runs up the thing and stabs it with a. Oh, so cool.
Heimdall is the coolest character in that movie. Even in the comics, Heimdall's pretty sweet, but that was awesome.
Idris Elba is pretty much badass as anything, though.
Mm-hmm. Such a waste of a role. He should be Jon Stewart, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's already Heimdall, so you can't they have.
I know they have
Marvel's
the
locked
contracts.
up all these characters, all these actors. Yeah. It's they can't go work for DC. You've seen that fan made poster of him as Jon Stewart, right? That's pretty cool. We've talked about our thoughts on Justice League. I'm not going to talk about it right now. What do you think of Natalie Portman Other than that, she's hot.
I mean, first of all, meh, and also she's been hotter. So
what?
Meh. She's been hotter than in that movie.
Okay, but like, yeah, sure, but like, she's not a meh. Okay.
She's a meh.
Okay, well, you're mistaken.
She was
That's okay. Oh, Daniel's confused.
Almost unnecessary part of that movie. Almost, not quite. Like she still had a role, but like,
I just didn't. She just kind of
wasn't impressed.
Like, the movie tried to incorporate her more, and it just didn't feel like it worked sometimes. You know.
Yeah.
She was there. She did some kind of funny stuff, and then she fell, touched the ether.
It's just like they turned her character into like almost like a ditzy blonde. Like, oops, I just happened to come across this thing,
and she's a scientist,
and now I need to be saved. Yeah. And like they say that she's a scientist.
She does do sciencey stuff at the end, though. She turns knobs.
None of that shit is even close to explained. All that stuff is like, it turns out.
That's the thing.
No. It doesn't have to be fully explained, but it's like, do something better than, we have this Game Boy now. If I turn these two dials this way, it can make portals. Like, what the fuck was that?
It was tapping into the convergence of the 7 realms.
Okay,
7?
but what it
5? How many realms are there?
9
realms.
But you know what it looked like, right? Like it looked like they just had a Game Boy Advance.
It wasn't a Game Boy Advance. It was way bigger than that.
Okay, maybe a 3DS, and they were just. And they somehow happened to have the portal at the right place at the right time.
Well, no. The portal was attached to the stick that he threw. Remember?
No.
Yes.
Not every time.
Yeah. No, because when the worlds were converging, they explained that earlier when the birds flew through the floor and then all that kind of stuff. They explained that already. So this was just tapping it. That machine of theirs tapped into that.
Their DS was able to control that somehow.
Yeah.
Stupid.
So if that's your biggest complaint, then you didn't have that many.
It's not my biggest complaint. It's kind of a dumb plot point.
Well, I mean, the whole climax, it just looked cool. I like the whole thing. It's like, get out of here right now. It's like, are you kidding me? That's Thor out there hitting stuff with his hammer. Also, the weird get on the subway thing and like just appear back at the battle in 3 seconds. That was kind of odd. Also, why take the subway? You
can fly. Well, he didn't have his hammer at that point. Like Mjolnir has been like flying around, like going through all those portals.
Kind of cool, actually. I was like, it would start flying away into the space because he was in like another world. Yeah. And then you'd come back and it'd come back in. I like that.
That was cool, but like, I guess that's why you took the subway. But it's also like, I'm sure Thor could have thought of something better than a subway.
Mm-hmm. If he's that strong, like, do you think if he jumped, like, he'd be able to jump really far?
The physics of Thor have never really been.
Daniel, it's not magic. It's just science that we don't understand yet. Okay.
Well, then yes, then he should be able to jump like the Hulk.
Okay, just wondering. What else did you like or dislike about it? We'll save that last final post-credit scene for the end. Just like Betty did.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. I love the stuff on Asgard. Again, like, same with the first movie. Like, the best parts of the first and second movie were on Asgard.
Yeah, and they finally fleshed out Asgard. It feels like a living world.
Yeah, it did. It did. I feel like there was other people. There were other people there. They showed that jail. They showed that bar that they were in. Yeah. I want a Thor movie that's almost entirely on Asgard. You know, I want more.
Well, this one was almost entirely on Asgard.
It was. I want more of Lady Sif and the Warriors 3. You know.
Mm-hmm. Lady Sif, Jamie Alexander, still awesome. It sucks that she can't be Wonder Woman. That's the other thing.
They kind of they touched on it briefly. Just, the way they looked at each other.
Never.
Jane Foster and Lady Sif are they're both competing because in the comics Thor is two different people. He's Thor and then Donald Blake. So on Earth he's in love with Jane Foster. Then when he's Thor he's in love with Lady Sif. Right?
What? No, I thought that was just a secret identity.
I'm pretty sure it's almost it's like they switched not switched places, but like he becomes him. You know what I mean?
Really? I don't have to look that one up.
I don't know. I'm not big on Thor comics. That's the impression I was given. Anyway.
I always thought that was just like his
was that he was
identity.
Able to be Thor on Asgard and Donald Blake, and then when he had to come to Earth, he would take Donald Blake's spot.
Really? That's weird. Okay.
I might be wrong about that though.
They already did the Donald Blake thing with calling him Donald Blake in the first one. Remember?
Yeah. But what I was getting at is that there's sort of a competition thing between Lady Sif and Jane Foster.
They gave each other the stink eye, and
they gave a look, and then that was it.
Yeah, it was never touched on again. I guess maybe in the third one.
Also, for the record, Renee Russo as Frigga was awesome.
Yeah, she was really good. She was really good, and she dies, and that's sad. I think the way it makes sense. I mean, he could kill someone, has a catalyst. Played really well with the whole Loki thing.
Yeah.
Did you believe what happened with when they did the whole cut
Oh,
the hand
that's
off?
the other thing. Yeah, I did, because like a lot of the promo, like we watched a trailer months ago that had Thor getting his hand cut off and Jane looking like she was dying, and like I was ready. I was like, it's like I was ready for that to happen.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that it didn't happen. It's like a reverse.
I kind of
not a
like that they
reverse,
did
but,
that.
like,
I really actually thought that
it's
scene
like
was really
a
awesome.
double, like triple play. You know, like they
Triple
they
agent.
tricked me. Yeah, yeah.
They're like, guess what? He's gonna get his hand cut off, and you're like, oh no,
It's
but
almost
maybe
like
it's not gonna
these studios,
happen, and then it does happen. And you're like,
the thing is, like,
and it
we
doesn't.
have so much information ahead of time. Like, we know like so much ahead of
Yeah.
time. We have all these trailers. It's like they have to release crap like that in order to just surprise us. Like, to still, you know.
But it's like, I was thinking, like, wait, what if? I was like, okay, maybe his hand's gone. What if he attaches his hammer to his hand? What if his hand is his hammer? That's the first thing that ran through my head. I was like, how's he gonna use his hammer now? But then the whole
that's the whole point, yeah.
and the whole switch, and I was like, man,
Yeah.
that was really cool. Like
And what's
especially
cool
because
about
you believe because Loki's such a fucking dick that you just expect
Well, he's
him.
not. That's it. Loki. He serves his own purposes, but he's not purely a dick to the Asgardians. He still they're still his family. He still loves his mother.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Loki's always been kind of a
Oh, yeah.
multi-dimensional character.
That scene where he's in the thing and Frigga's there visiting, and
Yeah.
he's like, you're not my whatever. Like, he's not my father. And he's like, well, does that make me not your mother or whatever? And he's like, oh, ow.
Yeah, because like, yeah,
Oh, I feel like an asshole.
Loki always like he does things like that, but he's always has like a he's forgivable to
I
a
know
certain
because
extent.
he's not the god of evil, right? He's the god
yeah,
of
he's
mischief.
the god of mischief. Yeah,
And he just always has layers. It's like he's like an onion or a cake.
yep. or a Shrek.
Yeah, or a Shrek. Oh yeah, there was actually some really good just one-on-one scenes. I think Odin. I mean,
Yeah,
who played
Anthony
Odin? It was
Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, great as Odin.
Yeah, for sure.
That was probably one of the
This
best.
is what I'm saying though.
casting.
Like, I would love more on Asgard because those are the best people in the movie.
And you think okay, the whole Jane Foster thing exists because that was how it was in the comics. But like, it just makes sense that he would be in love with Jane Foster,
Doesn't make sense.
right? Like,
Also, like in the first Thor movie, like it wasn't really set up right. It didn't really make any sense
well,
at
no,
all.
it wasn't really okay. It did make
It's the
some
same
sense.
problem I have with Superman. It just seemed like they kissed in the end because it felt like it was obligated. Like it wasn't really. They didn't really connect.
Well, I think you have to
you know?
understand the point of view of the woman in this, and we have obviously have a hard time understanding that. But like, this is he's
she
a
was helpless and he
Superman,
was-
and this is like this is like their equivalent
Yeah,
of like
so you kiss him
Superman.
as soon as that's that. I don't agree.
They just
with that.
easily fall for them. Is what I'm guessing.
don't s- that like that's more sexist to say that.
No,
I don't
think it
understand
is.
women.
Like, imagine the epitome of the most beautiful woman in the world, and you were like exposed to this person and interacted with this person. Would you not
Yeah.
easily fall for that person?
No, yeah, my pants would be around my ankles right now. But like that's not. But like to say that, to make that kind of statement about the
But
women
I think
in these
that
movies
makes sense
is
if
more
you put it
sexist.
in that perspective, don't you think? No,
I don't think so.
I think it's weird to say that it only works one way and then not the other way.
No, I don't think it works either way. I think in reality it wouldn't work either way. And I think it's more sexist to assume that it would work this way for these women.
I don't know. I think it's hard to say because there's no way to know. There's no Superman and there's no.
No, that's all fine. But in terms of a character, in terms of writing a story, it felt like both in Man of Steel and in Thor, they kissed at the end because a Superman came into their town and fought off the big bad guys, but there was no character development. There's no character interaction, and she just kisses him because he's a Superman, he's the hero, and he gets the girl. But
You say
it wasn't
earned.
developed at all.
It wasn't earned.
Not even that it wasn't earned, that it made no sense. It wasn't justified. It was just a girl kissing.
That's exactly what I said. Earned and justified. In this case, it means
No,
like the same thing.
not necessarily. Like,
She didn't. That kiss wasn't
okay,
earned.
so I don't know. How do you define earning a kiss?
well,
But, like,
as far as storytelling,
okay, yeah, so he saved her life. But again, like that's part of what's always been the trope of women in comic books. It's like, oh, this man saved my life, so now I should kiss him. Now I should sleep with him. Like blah 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 blah. That's not
you
fair
don't.
to
Again, I think
women.
at the same time, I think if someone saved your life, I think you would probably have a pretty strong
I
connection
think
to that person.
if I was gonna get hit by a car and a chick saved my life, I wouldn't drop my pants and bang her right there.
No, I don't think that they're even trying to say that that's how it is.
Or kiss her or anything like that. But that's how women are depicted in the comic books.
I can agree that there's definitely issues as towards how women are portrayed in comics.
And a lot of that is more like golden age, silver age, like a long time ago, like in comic books. Which is why it's so frustrating to see it in movies. It's like
it has its own name, hey? The woman in refrigerator syndrome or whatever.
Just the damsel in distress.
Have you heard that before? As far as it's directly related to comic books, it's the woman in refrigerator. No, there's a whole website dedicated
based on it. Based on what? Kyle Rayner?
Yeah. Based on exactly on that. Yeah.
But she dies in the end. She doesn't even get saved.
I know. But it's that whole... The way that women are treated in comic books is that whole women in refrigerator thing.
It's the way women were treated in comics, not the way they are necessarily
they still are
nowadays.
I don't want to get into a whole debate about sexism and gender roles
I'm sure
in
we're
comics.
on the same side about this, but like, what I'm saying is in these two movies, it really felt like they were... The women in these stories were women in comics from the 1950s, whereas the heroes were more modern.
Yeah, and I think...
Which I would like to see Lois Lane, a modern Lois Lane, Lois Lane has always been, spunky, and, she wouldn't hesitate to slap Superman in the face, you know?
I hate spunky. But yeah, like just if you were Thor, just you would be with Sif. It would that's how it would be, you know.
That's the thing. Like what interaction in either of the two movies that we have between the two of them, like where was this relationship established?
I'd have to go back and watch the first Thor. Honestly, I don't even know.
Go back and watch. It's not. He's with them when they find him, and she hits him with the van and whatever. But the entire time that he's with them, he's just trying to get back to his hammer. He's not even. He's basically like just not even paying attention to them. He's like, yeah, but I need to get back to my hammer.
Yeah, exactly. Dan's just falling for the whole the dude who doesn't.
I know.
And
I
dude who doesn't pay attention to her, and it worked.
So it's classic, right?
Yeah, that's the key, guys out there. Treat your woman like shit, and they'll
it's
appreciate
not a huge deal.
More.
Like the movies as a whole are not horrible movies for this. I'm just saying, and it's weird that I'm saying this, that I wish the women's roles were written better.
Okay, it's not weird that you would say that. I think
no. I if you know me as a person, it's weird that I like.
Okay, sure. Do you want to talk about the post-credit scene then, super quick?
Sure.
So you have Sif.
It was
in a weird role, and then Full Stag. They're so the ether apparently just kind of like the what's it called, the cosmic cube, the tesseract are both, turns out, infinity gems or soul gems, same word. I break down this what it means in my review of it, but essentially it means that the Infinity Gauntlet, which is obviously what they're teasing, or they're kind of teasing that with the whole Thanos stuff, is that with all the Infinity Gems together in the Infinity Gauntlet, you control reality, essentially. There's 6 or 5. I should know this, I just wrote about it.
Well, I mean, I would say 5 because, Gauntlet, 5 fingers.
Yeah, I think there was another one added later. Anyway, so there's like the Soul Gem, the Mind Gem, the Time Gem, the Space Gem, and... something else. But anyway, essentially when you combine them, bring them all together, you control reality. And what Thanos, his whole thing is that he's obsessed with death. In the comic books, it's like a personified death, an actual being
character
that is death, a woman. I'm not sure if they'll go that route, but he wants to get the Infinity Gem so he can essentially kill huge sections of the universe all at once to get the attention of death. But yeah, so I don't know if that's where they're going with it. But okay, so they bring it to this guy.
Yeah,
turns out
the Collector.
The Collector, played by
Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro looks kind of funky, a little weird. He's always
looks really weird.
He always looks weird. And let's be honest, if that's how the whole Guardians of the Galaxy looks like, I'm a little worried.
No. Like, what was weird about that scene for me is like, that's such an obscure like way to go with it. It's really it's a few steps off the beaten path. It's but not really mean.
I think that those teasers are supposed to be for those people that know what it means. You know what I mean?
But again, I know it's hard for you and I to do. Take yourself out of a person who knows the comics, and I don't think either of us know the Collector or his story very well. but try to take a step back from that. Pretend you're just a random person going to see a Thor movie, like one of our
But
girlfriends.
those aren't intended for you. Those post-credit scenes aren't for you.
Okay, so then what
no
is
one
that?
knows
Like,
who. No one knew who. Most regular people who don't read comic books didn't know who Nick Fury was at the end of Iron Man 1 either. You know, like
I guess.
it's not for
I don't.
you. It's
I mean,
for
I
us.
don't know much about the Collector.
No, but we knew what it
watching
meant.
that, it seemed really weird.
We knew what it meant, though. We knew that with the movie they were teasing, right? We knew they were
Yes,
talking about Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn directed that scene. It could have used a little bit more, polish. I think it looked a little cheesy. And we know the Collector he's apparently in the comics. He's like an eternal being. He's around since the beginning of the universe, and he just kind of collects things, as his name would suggest. But he does mention that, two down or whatever.
But after they leave, like, who is he talking to when he says that?
Maybe that little assistant person.
Probably not her. She seems very, very unimportant.
Yeah, or maybe just talking to himself. I mean, who knows?
Thanos, I guess. So what we're assuming at this point, then, considering everything we talked about, is that the Thanos and Infinity Gauntlet story would be Avengers 2, and then Avengers 3 would be
because the Avengers
Civil
2, we
War?
already know what Avengers 2 is.
What?
It's the Ultron. Age of Ultron.
That's right. Yeah,
so I mean, it has to be Avengers 3, which means if they're doing
so
Civil
then
War,
what
it has to be
what
Phase
is the point
4.
of having that Thanos teaser for like 20 years down the road?
It's gonna be Phase. That's the end of. Okay, so Feige actually talked about this, saying that the Thanos is like is like the version of an end boss. Okay, so all these other mini bosses that they're fighting, all the way up until the very final end boss, which is Thanos. Assuming probably Avengers 3, because you want to have that as a trilogy and all fit together quite nicely in a nice little pocket.
So then no Civil War.
Not until Phase 4, maybe.
Okay.
That's what, like 20...
No, what I was getting to is when we were talking about the whole Captain America situation.
Yeah, so
if
then
you want him for, like, it complicates things.
Yeah, so that does, it does. Especially if they want to do the Death of Cap thing.
But honestly, I think Civil War, like, I could wait. I would rather have the Thanos thing as Avengers 3 and do Civil War later. The more, in terms of Civil War, the more characters you have established, the better. That's the whole point of Civil War.
Yeah, and there's for sure more characters coming. We know for sure Ant-Man's coming. We know all the Defenders are coming.
And again, that's all like Phase 3. Yeah. You don't even know after that.
We like the Guardians of the Galaxy probably won't play a big part in Civil War, but we know that.
I mean, they could be a larger part because there are other characters that are lacking.
Yeah,
right?
And then there's the. We know that Doctor Strange will probably be incorporated. We know that Black Panther is almost like those two are almost for sure. They haven't announced what they are.
Yeah.
But
we need a Black Panther and Doctor Strange. Again, neither one of those is a huge part of Civil War, but we still need them.
But you can include them,
and yeah, you could rewrite it, right?
Yeah, because nothing we've had so far has been like a direct translation of anything from the comics. So
honestly, like all this crap we're talking about, I'm most excited about Daredevil.
Oh man, yeah.
2015. That's all I get.
And it makes so much sense.
Black Panther's a really cool character. I'm excited for that too, but I'm more excited for Daredevil the series than anything else right now for Marvel.
Well, I hope they do a good job
maybe
casting.
Avengers 2 actually, but
I'm sure they'll do a good job casting. I don't know who I can imagine as Daredevil at this point.
It's tough. Like I don't know how the casting works for these Netflix shows because it's all released one day. Like
a lot of movie actors do TV now. It's like a quality gig. It's like consistent, getting money for a long time. Like not Keith Urban.
Definitely not Keith Urban.
No, Urban, the actor from Star Trek.
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban. So he's doing that new show. Have you watched it? New Almost Human.
No.
Pretty cool. Just premiered on Sunday. It's a J.J. Abrams show, so you might be wary, but it's actually pretty cool. It's set like 2045.
Yeah.
And it's set.
You know what else I found out is a J.J. Abrams show is Felicity.
Okay.
It's about a girl who travels back in time, and the concept, whatever, there's time travel and there's a cute girl. Could be a great show. Turns out the show is all about her relationship problems and how she can fix her relationship with a couple random dudes, and it's like 90210.
Okay,
but
sure.
Also there's space travel.
So he hasn't done cool manly shows forever. Whatever.
No. That show is stupid.
Okay, sure. Anyway,
Pisses
we know
me
that
off.
he has a good track record for making stuff. Okay, and we better hope so because Star Wars better be awesome.
Yeah.
But anyways, the show Almost Human is set in the future where like crime has risen 400%, and there's all these crazy weapons and technology out there that is just out of control. So they have androids as are mandatory partners with the human. So every human cop, there's an android cop that's with them, and that's the basic idea of it. But it's much more interesting than that. Carl Urban's the main character. So I mean, like
Carl Urban's pretty sick, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll see that kind of thing happen where a larger, and not Carl Urban's no Brad Pitt, but like he's doing television. So I mean, it's not out of the question, especially with a Netflix thing where it's all filmed at once and it all comes out at once. That you could have a bigger name do that, especially if we know that he's gonna be in the movies eventually. So you'd want to have someone that can fit that role.
No, it's exciting. Have you been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all?
Yep, there's one on tonight. I'm going to go watch it right after we record here.
I'll
ties into
watch
Thor.
it tomorrow after my test. I know I'm excited for it, but I have to...
Yeah. And I'm just going to keep putting off my psych report.
I've actually been very impressed with the show so far, though.
I think it started off a little shaky, and then I think now it's starting to grow into what it is, and I some things are a little cheesy. Some of the dialogue can be a little cheesy. But that's okay because I think it fits with that universe and how that works. But at the same time, I think some of the darker episodes work better.
They're setting a lot up. Like there's a lot of about Coulson and the whole Tahiti thing at the beginning of the first couple episodes.
I love it.
He was saying, "Yeah, I went to Tahiti. It was beautiful." And now he's saying it, and then he's like thinking about why he said it, and it's like. There's something behind the scenes there, you know.
Well, we don't know how he came back, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the big. That's probably going to be the season 1 ender, like you know.
And there's so much. I mean, there's a lot of. There's some. I don't know where I was reading this, but they were talking about how like almost every character has in this show has like a hidden past.
yeah.
But I mean,
Coulson has the Tahiti thing, and then May has the like she was a super agent.
Yeah, but you don't know what her deal is. Sky with her
Sky
parents.
has her parents thing. Fitz and Simmons, whatever, but they have like a weird like love triangle thing going on there. But it's not overplayed, you know. It's just like a flirty thing, which is how I like it for TV. You know, it doesn't have to be over the top.
It's light television that ties into the Marvel universe, and that's nothing to complain about. It doesn't have to be serious all the time, like. And
there are a decent amount of not cameos, but like just like references.
Yeah, they talked about Agent Romanov in the last episode.
Yeah, both Barton and Romanov. Yeah.
They talked about what else did they mentioned Triskelion, which we'll see in Captain America 2.
They talk about New York a lot, which is the Avengers incident, and like they've talked about Captain America.
They need to chill on the New York thing. Like they mentioned that a lot. Just relax. I mean, I know it was a big deal, but like I guess it's kind of like the 9/11
because
of that universe.
Think put yourself in that world. Yeah, that's the 9/11 of that universe, right?
That's true.
People that's going to be talked about. That has to be.
They really talk about like what the death toll was. You got to assume that a lot of those aliens killed a lot of people.
It was huge.
Right? But you don't ever hear them talk about it. But again, it's a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that'll be addressed.
I'm enjoying the show. I'm enjoying the few little references that we get, and I'm enjoying it like even as a standalone. I like the characters, and I want to.
Okay.
I'm excited to watch.
And you still haven't watched Arrow at all, hey?
No, I haven't.
You should get into it, man. The second season's so good. So good. And actually, a little thing for the Arrow fans out there. He's going to be wearing his mask soon. Apparently, there's a whole story behind it, so I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Right now, he's doing the makeup thing. It's just like he paints his eyes with like green eye paint to make it look like a domino mask.
Yeah.
But the producers are saying how like he's growing from being a vigilante to a hero and being from Arrow to Green Arrow, so he's incorporating more of those classic things as the series moves along, which I really appreciate. So that domino mask will be coming in later. Although at the same time, domino masks don't hide your identity at all. And Green Lantern made a funny joke
it's a
about
statement.
That. But like if you really are trying to hide who you are, the domino mask doesn't do it at all.
I don't know.
The hood does the hood on its own does a better job of it.
Whatever.
Anyway, well, I think we should wrap it up here. Find us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast. Maybe do some more Google Plus stuff. We're on there as well. The Tower Babblecast podcast. We're on Facebook. We are on Podcast Land. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. So, I mean, where any good podcast is found, we are there probably. So, search us up, add us, rate us on iTunes. That's a big one. We'd love some good ratings on iTunes. That pushes it up into the if we get enough of them,
Stitcher, right?
we might get up into like the new and noteworthy or something like that, and then you get a huge bump. I'm excited for one day that might happen. If not, whatever. But other than that, we'll be back next week. Maybe Jeremy will be back. Maybe you won't. He never even talked to us today, so he's a jerk. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.